Okay, so let's get mobilised. Good luck with the balance side of it. And if you need to hang on to something, hang on to something. So first of all, just take some great Pilates posture. Create the maximum length in your spine. Just crown the head up to the ceiling. Draw your shoulder blades back and down. Breathe in, and each time you breathe out, allow your ribs to gently push down. Breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, and the ribs just sliding down into the belly. Lifting up through the pelvic floor, so it's hard, isn't it, to keep your shoulder blades gently coming back. And the ribs down. But this is going to help you with your balance as well. So, first part of balance is to lift the heels up just a little, lower them down. Start to explore the height you can achieve and pull upwards with everything you've got, so it feels like the thighs are pulling upwards, the hips and bum, the belly, pelvic floor. And I'm really concentrating on the big toe, trying to stay down. So it's been really clear in the video that I really roll out towards my ankle toes. Don't know if you can feel it. Exploring the height. And I'm trying to keep control, but I'm struggling with the control here. Just exploring what you can get to. Now you can stay with this. If this next move feels okay for your knees, we're going to add a little bit of a bounce, which is very unusual in Pilates, but it just brings a bit of impact and it really helps loosen up the fascia. So you lift your heels just a little bit, and they don't quite touch the floor, and it's up to you how fast you make this bounce. Just relax your shoulders. I know, we're doing it. Yeah. You don't have to bounce, especially if it feels too much. You might go with the slow lift and lower. But if you train the bounce, push against the big toes. We're not here for too long, we are going to get a bit stretch. Relax your shoulders, relax your arms. Yeah, if you want.
It's quite hard to relax anything.
And lower the heels down. And stretch the calves, so your knees push forward. Just go small to start with, and I'll just coach just out of safety where we can get to. As we're trying to stay upright. Are you okay?
Yeah,
Please
right.
don't snap it.
That
Please don't snap anything on video. Make me look professional. Your spine is long. Ideally, we'd do this with our backs against the wall. We'd have our bum against the wall, our shoulders against the wall, and keep the ribs down. Push against the big toe so the arch of the foot doesn't collapse, and start to explore how much knee bend is comfortable for your knees. Don't work in joint pain. If you've got tightness in the calves, you'll feel the stretch. So I'm keeping the weight equal in my foot. I know there's a lot to think about, but if you can, push against your big toe, your little toe, and your heel. Still pull the crown of the head up to the ceiling. And we'll work with a little bit of strength in the legs. Remember, only go to where it's comfortable for the knees. So we're still engaging core, pelvic floors engaged. And you're breathing in on the way down, which feels wrong, and breathe out on the way up. Yoga breathing always feels right. Breathing in on the way down, out on the way up. So the reason we've done quite a few of these is really to give a chance for the calves to loosen out. You can stay with this, or you can take a balance challenge. The heels lift, so you won't get a stretch with this. This is more strength. So decide if you're staying with the stretch. And I'm trying to very badly keep my balance as I lower down. Once again, if you want to go for strength and not balance, do this move with your bum and shoulders against the wall, and keep your bottom on the wall as you slide down. If you're going for balance and strength, then this is how we do it. We're not hanging on to anything. I am trying to keep my big toes down. I'm trying to keep my heels as lifted as I can, and I'm pulling up through my core to really help the balance. Once again, try to go without knee pain. This will strengthen around the knees and help with your balance. And rest between each one.
Oh.
Yes.
Feet are going
You can freestyle. Yeah, so that wobbling that we're probably feeling in a couple of the exercises, that juggling, These are muscles trying to just connect with each other and the brain.
That's your I reckon I'd say that. Proprioception.
Absolutely. It's really hard not to lean forward, so it's worth checking with mirrors or a wall. As soon as we lean forward, we use the muscles of the bum. And yes, it helps the knees, but we try to strengthen the knees. It's okay, whichever you can manage. Coming all the way up and let's stretch through the back of the body. So you've got the roll down next. So we need to pull up and over the hips. Start this by lifting the back of the skull up, so you've got a wonderful stretch. Lift the next vertebrae up and the next one up. And start to roll forward. Relax your shoulders. Pull your tummy in really tightly. And just how rounded can you get your back? How loose and relaxed can the upper body be? Move slowly so you've got lots of time to stop before it goes into back. Pull lower belly in really firmly, as if you're trying to keep the tummy off the thigh muscles. Once you've got as low down as is comfortable for your body, roll back up. Try and use the muscles in our feet. We don't tend to look after them very much. So press against the big toe quite firmly. Keep the weight in the heel, the big toe, the little toe, but press against the big toe. I know there's lots to think about. So the main purpose of this move is to release the spine and stretch through everything in the back of the body. And you're moving slowly. Each move of Pilates is about control. Control of the body and breath. So slow your breathing down. You might have a whole in and out breath on the way down and a whole in and out breath on the way up. Restack your spine so you're really wonderfully tall. Lift the back of the head up and round. Pull each vertebrae up and forward. We don't always know what's going on in the spine. Sometimes we can have things like osteopenia and osteoporosis undiagnosed. So by creating as much space between the vertebrae as we create these moves, not only do we get healthy blood flow to the spine increased and nutrients to the spine, but we protect it so we don't have bone on bone. Let's do one more. Back of the head lifts, around the body. Pull the tummy in, relax the arms. Slow breath, pelvic floor engaged. Has anyone got a headache yet with all these teaching points? Push the tailbone down, restack to a wonderfully tall stance. We're going to work with a little bit more leg strength, but we're going to come all the way down to the floor. So make your way down to the mat, lying on back. So would it make sense if you had toes towards each other?
Yes.
That's okay with you.
Then you'll get to see my face if I have to sit up.
We love watching your face, Katrina. So arms slightly away from body. Quite often people will lie in a really tense position like this. So it's really worth sliding the chin in, back of the head away from shoulders, arms slightly away, and wriggle your shoulder blades towards each other so you can really get the tension out the shoulders. Feet fairly close to bum, but not so close that your knees hurt, and feet hip width apart. Breathe in, engage your core, particularly pelvic floor. Breathe out, tilt your pelvis. So you're just flattening the arch of the back, and now you're going to keep on tilting until you lift the tailbone, and then the next vertebrae, and the next one, and the next one. Pause at your top position and just take a moment. We're going to check that the rib cage is pushing down into the tummy, and the pelvis is tilting up towards the ceiling. So tailbone down, pubic bone, and tailbone pushing up. Try and keep that feeling as you roll up and down. Let's try it. Breathe in to prepare, breathe out to lift. Breathe in to level. So can you feel each vertebrae moving one at a time? If you've got some tightness in your back, it's going to be tough, but just do what you can without pain. Relax the shoulders. And then we're going to take this into a little bit of a stronger workout. So you can carry on and complete your full 8. or you can join me for the advancement now if you want. For the advancement is feet and knees come together. This is going to make it harder to work on your pelvic tilt and stretch any tightness in your hips, although you don't always feel the stretch. Tilt your pelvis and don't lift quite as high, so lift your bum, push your ribs down. I can actually feel roughly brow strap area on the body still on the floor. Shoulder blades gently drawing towards each other, just comfortably. We're going to have a go at lifting one knee over belly. If this hurts your back, then you're going to have both feet on the floor and just push into one foot really hard. Knee right over belly will help your pelvis stay tilted. And you're going to squeeze your bum, squeeze, squeeze. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3. You know you don't have to do 4 pulses per breath. Find your natural slow breath and find a rhythm of pulsing. If it hurts your back, remember, put your foot down and just push against your foot very hard instead of having one leg lifted. Is it kicking in yet? Keep going. Look. Just double check you've got your maximum rib depression, so just hunch down the ribs a bit more. That's it.
Oh.
Yes, just makes the bum fire up a bit more.
Oh, yeah.
You've got great faces. Unfortunately, it's not showing on the camera. 2 more breaths if you can.
That's maybe a good thing, Sarah.
Ideally, you're feeling it in your bottom and not your back. Now, lower down. Hug the knee that's just been in the air. Straighten the leg. Opposite leg. Opposite hand to kneecap. Reach your arm, free arm out to the side. So opposite hand to knee. This is the leg that's just been in the air. Slowly take it across your body, allowing your bottom to lift. It's going to lift on one side off the floor. Come back to center. Now keep both shoulders on the floor. Breathe out, rotate. Breathe in, come to center. Same principles. Make sure you're stretching the bottom and hip. Keep your ribs pushing down into your tummy. Feel the rib cage really sinking into the tummy. This will stop it going into back again. Breathe out, rotate. Breathe in, come to center. Breathe out, rotate. Breathe in, come to center. Let's do 4 more. And then we'll do the whole sequence on the other side. Really important to keep our bottoms strong. The stronger the butt is, the stronger, the safer the back, the safer the knee. I don't know if I'm ready to do the other side yet. I'm still, that one keeps on giving. Still feeling it. How are you guys doing? Land down. Okay. Are you ready? Ready or not? Here we go. Tension out the shoulders. I know we're working butt, but wriggle the shoulder blades together. Relax the arms. Now push the ribs down towards the floor and really tilt your pelvis as much as you can. We're going to start with the knees together. Get as much tilt as you can. So, if this is too strong for the back to lift the leg, just push against one foot really hard and don't lift the other leg. If you can bring the knee all the way in over chest, bring it into chest. We've got about 12 breaths. Keep the ribs down. Squeeze. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3. So really see if you can exaggerate the pelvic tilt. Scoop the tailbone up, squeeze the bone, keep the ribs pretty close to the floor. Yes, you both look in a great position. Bring the focus to the foot that's on the floor. Check the weights in the heel and the big toe. Now if we're being super on it, we'd make sure our hip bones were level as well. So if you try this, you know your knee that's lifted, scan your attention down to the hip and lift that hip half an inch higher and try and keep that lift. Do you feel the difference? So this is being very technical. If that was a bit too much, you don't have to do it, but it keeps the pelvic tilt. Anyone being counting?
No, but
Me either. I reckon we've got about 4 more breaths. So often the glutes don't fire up, the bottom doesn't fire up because the hips aren't level and we have a small twist in the pelvis. So this should help if things weren't firing up. Slowly lower down. Okay. So the foot that was working, the leg that was working, the bottom that was working, that's the leg that's lifted. Hug it. Opposite hand to knee. Reach your arm out. Yes, and slowly take the release. Oh, this is supposed to be pleasant, but it's not quite as pleasant as normal after that. Keep your ribs down. Breathe out, rotate. I kind of feel like I want to ask Bonnie and June to send a video of their faces whilst doing this exercise.
After what?
A little video of their faces whilst doing that exercise.
I want to see them.
We'd like to see you. Keep your shoulder blades gently squeezing together. So the purpose of this is to release the muscle that's just worked really hard.
In fact, we should all send a little video of us
Yes.
doing it from our floors.
Push your ribs down, just keep the pelvic tilt and explore how much knee bend do you want, how close do you want to bring the knee to chest, where does your leg need to be to get the best stretch? So you might have the knee higher, the foot higher, just play around what hits the spot. Let's go for 4 more and explore whether you can get a bit further across. Breathing out, rotating, breathing in, resetting. Got one more. So that's glutes taken care of. You know how we take care of the thighs as we work through leg strength. I can see the excitement in your faces right now. Can we have a seat? So working from legs, so glutes, thighs, hamstrings, and then go on to core. Just a really quick full body workout. Hopefully pretty effective. So, I know you guys are both really comfortable sitting in this position, and the way you find out you're comfortable in this position is if you're not on the tailbone. So if you feel like you're sitting like this, you need to elevate your bottom and sit on a cushion, ideally something hard, so a few books would be ideal. Or wriggle and pull the hips back so that you can tilt the pelvis, and if it's still really strong, bend one knee. There should be no pressure in the lower back. So I'm going to go for the lighter option. Feel free to go for the stronger option, guys. Ribs are down. We've got as much lean forward as we can. So if you can take the hands forward and get some hand strength, bare claw hands. And push against the hands as hard as you can. Do you feel when you push against the fingertips, straight away the tummy starts to fire up? Anyway, keep the shoulders down the back, and if it's too much, support your back. So if your hamstrings are tight, it's really worth sitting on a few deep books. Should we get on with it? Pull the toes towards you. This is also great for knees. Breathe in, and as you breathe out, lift the leg up and over. If you've gone straight into cramp, feel free to add a little bit of assistance while your body gets used to it. We're going to aim for 10. I'm going to be nice today. Push against your fingertips as hard as you can. Make sure it's not hurting the joints and not going into lower back. Keep going. If it's going into...
As soon as you got us in this position, I knew what was coming.
As soon as it goes into lower back, support your back, but keep your shoulders down. Breathe out, lift, breathe in lower. Breathe out, lift, breathe in lower. If you're a slow breather like me, this is horrendous.
Your shoulders so want to flare up.
Yes. Yeah, we're fighting it.
Said if you can.
No, we'll learn in about 3 years' time. My legs wanting to cramp up, definitely. Last one. Let's just make sure the back's quite free. So, drape forward. Take a little breather here. Pull upwards with the spine. If this doesn't release the back, lie down and hug your knees. Let's try a different kind of back release before we go into the other side. Bring the soles of the feet together. Always tap on the sit bones. It's based on a yoga seated style. Pull up and over your hips, so there's lots of room for the lower spine. Gently round your back and explore how far forward you can go. Relax your shoulders. Your feet can be close to bone, it can be a long way away, whatever's comfortable for the knee. I'm going to be very slowly now, so you need to very gently lift the arm closest to me, as if you're peeking under it. Pull your shoulder down your back and explore gentle twists. Go slow. Lower down. If that doesn't feel right for back, then stay with both hands on the floor. So lift the hand furthest from me and just peek under it. Slowly lift the ribs. See if you can get to and lower down. This is just to try and loosen out the back. If the back doesn't like it, keep the hands down and not twisting. One more time. Brace the core, reach the pelvic floor, breathe out, rotate. Breathe in. We've got one more. So remember, if your back doesn't like it, just lift the ribs side to side with a small one. If your back is not rested by this move, lie down and hug your knees and then join back in when you're ready. Other side. 2 straight legs if you can. If your lower back's not great, bend the knee. If your hamstrings are tight, you have to be seated on something to give you a bit of elevation. Fingertips here if you can. Ribs down, shoulders down. Push against your fingertips. Breathe out, lift and lower. Breathe in to change. Breathe out, lift. Let's pull our toes towards us in a dorsiflexion, just to get the knee joining in. Push against the fingertips and get a bit of hand strength. If you don't get on with the fingertips, you can push against the heel of the hand. And don't forget, here's the back support if your back's not great with this one. Could you move this cast? You're in charge then, Deborah. Let us know when we're done.
How many are we doing?
10.
That's 6.
So 1 rep is an in and an out. Pull these low down tummy muscles in as you do it. Engage the pelvic floor. So remember, the pelvic floor is bladder and bowels. Trying to create a lifting sensation. Was that your actual thigh squeaking or?
Don't know what. That one.
This should feel really nice. It releases the back and the thighs. So feet hip width apart. Tilt your pelvis. Shoulders push against the floor. And then roll down 1 vertebra at a time. So can you land your shoulder blades? Land your ribs. And then try and land 1 vertebra at a time around the middle of the back. My back's really tight today, so I'm struggling with that. For me, I don't tend to lift any higher than the shoulder blades, so my maximum lift, the shoulders are on the floor. I'm trying to keep the ribs down so the abs are contracted and lower. You manage to get a bit of release so the hips feeling and the thighs feeling as if they're getting the feeling back. Breathe out, lift. Breathe in, lower. So we're going to go into hamstring strength. Sometimes knees don't like this. So the trick to not make the knees work too hard is start at the light level. So we'll go with the light level and then you can always lift your hips higher and higher to make this tougher. So the first part of the move is tilt the pelvis, but keep the bottom on pretty much on the floor. It's just a pelvic tilt. You're going to push against your heels as hard as you can, and let's get some strength all around the ankle and foot. Pull your toes towards your shins. So pushing against your heels really hard. You're going to try and push one heel down, push the other heel down. A bit like you're marching on the spot. Now you'll feel your hips want to wriggle side to side, so brace your core and try and fight that natural wriggle. If you're able to, you're going to start to lift the other foot up. If it hurts your back, then don't lift the foot.
Sarah, is that with you? Because I've got my back itchy.
Oh yes, sorry.
Is that with your bum? Slightly off the floor.
So you can start to lift the bottom if you're coping with it. If it
Right.
feels too much, keep the bottom on the floor but create as much pelvic tilt as you can. So the higher you lift your bottom, the tougher it is. Now here's the challenge. So if you've gone for the bottom lift, good luck. Maximum pelvic tilt, maximum squeeze in your bottom. How far out can you start to walk your heels? Try and point your toes towards the ceiling. Your feet are probably going to want to wander out and point to the sides of the room. There'll be a point where you think, yeah, I can feel it in my hamstrings, that's good. But if you feel it in your back, you've gone too far. So you either lower the bum down or start walking the feet back in. Maximum pelvic tilt. We've got 4 rounds if you can. So you're working at your own pace. I'm taking roughly about 8 steps to walk out with. Working with as much pelvic tilt as I can. You might feel it in your calves as well, but we will stretch out after. And walk back in. If it's too much, then just reduce your reps. Really tilt the pelvis and then slightly out breath in. Last one. Keep kicking in.
Oh, gosh, yes.
So everything through the hamstrings and calves, the whole of the back of the leg firing up. We're going to roll down. We're going to go for a hamstring stretch. Try and keep your tailbone on the floor. So in this move, you might have a very small natural lift to the arch of the back, and that's absolutely fine. Slide your leg all the way out, kick into your heel, and just pull your leg in for scissors. If you're very tight, hold below the knee. Lower down and change sides. So we're moving under control. Slide the leg back in, slide along, lift a straight leg and then lower a straight leg. Breathe out, pull in, breathe in, lower. So the main purpose of this move is to get a hamstring stretch without lifting your bum off the floor. You've got to keep your bottom on the floor, so we just do the hamstring. So we can advance this step, can't we? So if you want to stay really gentle, you can. Or you can advance it by scooping out here and then changing legs simultaneously. You can work with 2 straight legs if you want to work harder. And if you want to bring a little bit of work in the upper body, lift the upper body here. So in this move, to isolate the hamstrings, if you want to think about something else, we're just trying to feel as if the arch of the back is lifting. It's one of the few moves we try and work in neutral spine. So it feels as if the arch of the back is just gently pulling off the floor. And now I was just about to say, Katrina, ditch those ballet toes and have some naughty toes instead of good ones. Pull your toes towards you. And it just does a full hamstring stretch. You probably feel like we needed that. You can have head on or off the floor, whichever's best for you. Keep going. Remember, if it gets too much, you can come down a level. And if it's still too much, completely lift and lower one leg at a time. How still can you keep your pelvis? So if you want to work this 4 more at your own time, make sure you control the move. Make sure you never kick or bounce. Lower down, change. Time to work our core. So it's been working, but we're going to give it a little bit more attention. Are you guys okay? So feel free to just nap or watch or join in. It's whatever your body needs. So with the knee hug, it's a great way to remind yourselves how an imprint of the spine feels. Deborah is nicely demonstrating that if it's uncomfortable for you to hug above the shin, if your knees are more comfortable, you can hug below the knee instead, back of the neck. So just keep the pelvis as still as you can. Relax the arms by the side. You're going to see how close, we've done this sequence before, we're going to see how close you can lower your toes to the floor. So you might get all the way down,
or you might keep the moves small with me. Brace the core, engage the pelvic floor, breathe out lower, breathe in lift. We're trying to relax the legs and arms so it's all in the core. If for any reason this is far too much, hang on to one leg and lower one leg at a time. So we shouldn't feel anything in the back. So if you happen to be really, really at the beginning of your journey, you might have to do one at a time. And then the progression would be not to hang on, one leg at a time. So it doesn't matter whether you're touching the floor, you're just trying to move the knee or knees away without any uncomfortable work in the lower back. We keep the ribs pushing down into the tummy, and that should help keep the spine on the floor. And also feel as if there's a little drawing pin under your tailbone, and try and keep the pelvic tilt. Keep your hips still, so that as your legs go away, you're trying to avoid the drawing pin. So you should just make that move pretty deep. We've got two more. Breathe out to lower, breathe into lift. The more you can brace the core, the less tension will come up into your neck and shoulders. There still might be a little bit. Work with a level of tension that's okay. Breathe out lower, breathe in lift. Lower one leg down at a time. Take a breather. And let's try this as a stretch. One knee hugs in. You can hold back a thigh or knee. Slide the other leg away and squeeze the bum. Change sides. Let's add some breath. Engage the core, breathe out, stretch, breathe in, change. So you're going to stay with this as long as you need to. And then we're going to start exploring it as an exercise. So the next challenge is to see whether you can, when you're ready to turn it into some work, see how straight you can get your leg, but just off the floor. I'm going to alternate. Breathe out, stretch your leg, change sides. So it's as if you've got a roller skate waiting for you by your bottom. Land your foot on the roller skate, slide it away, slide it back in, and come back. Breathe out, slide away, so you're keeping the foot as close to the floor as you can. Doesn't matter if you can't get your leg all the way straight, you shouldn't feel anything in your back, and the arch of the back should stay flat to floor. If your neck's okay, you're going to start to do this with an upper body lift. Wriggle your shoulders down your back and use your ribs to press down. And then you can stay with this so you can progress the move straight away. Same hand to knee, same side of the body stretches out. In this position here, pull your shoulder blade down your back. Breathe in, come center. Breathe out, down your back. Now if you want to support your head, and you've only got two hands, then you can stop hanging onto your knee and support your head instead. And if you want to progress the move, stop hanging onto your knee anyway. So your free arm would be down by your side, and you'd extend out and in. I'm going to take the head support. Now I'm trying to pull, remember to pull my shoulders down the back. Trying to keep the pelvis still and the ribs down. You don't have to extend the leg all the way out. Let's do two more. Don't work in neck pain. Lower the head down. If you need a breather, take your single leg stretch, so although it's a similar move, it's a really nice release for the hip and the back. If you're able to go straight back into some work, join me whenever your back feels okay and you feel like you can manage this without back pain. So we're going to try the double leg lower again. Breathe out, explore your range of movement. You might be tired and not get as far. And then each time you pull your knees in, pull them with the strength of your tummy, and see if you can create a small tailbone lift. If your back doesn't like it, don't go too deep. If you want to work harder, start to tap your feet further out. Where can you get to without your back leaving the floor? can you pull the knees in under control? I'm going to make a small adjustment to this move. Feet together, take your knees wide so we come more into frog. And as long as the back's comfortable with it, we're going to work with this. If you've got clicking in your hip and it's not hurting you, you can carry on for 8 reps. If the clunking hurts, stop. If you've got cramp, you've had it. Get some more gin and tonics down here. Oh no, just tonic, just tonic.
Just a tonic, yeah.
I'm not used to saying tonic without the word gin. Breathe out, push through and step. Now, have a breather if you want, or you can progress it with me. I'm going to pull the knees in, I'm going to bring the hands together, gently push the shoulders down the back, tuck the chin. Breathe out, pull the knees in, push as far forward as you can, and I'm going to try and keep my upper body up. Breathe out, see where you can reach to, breathe in and lower. Up to 6 more. If you need to rest the neck in between each one, you can lower the head down. You always lower the head down first because arms overhead in this position make it a lot harder to lower the legs. So I'm having to work a lot harder to keep the ribs down. No gap for my hand under here. And then lift up. So actually the abs stay a lot stronger in this lifted position. So please be really careful if you're lowering your head down each time. So always lower upper body first if you're lowering down. My arms and shoulders and back are tight, so I struggle to get the arms to floor. If you're bendy, you'll get arms to floor. Moving without back pain, breathe out. Breathe in. It's tough to breathe in this position. Keep the ribs down. Last one. How's your abs? They had the workout yet? That would be a yes. Land down. Great work, team. Does that help your abs, Katrina?
Oh, it helped me out. So what is my calf?
Let's take some rotational work and hopefully a little bit of a release. So, pull one knee in right the way in. Keep the other knee bent. We don't often get to rest the leg on the knee, but rest your foot on your knee. There's a bit of a balance challenge here. Push your ribs down and take your top leg across to the opposite side of your body. I'll let you think about that. Engage your core, see where you want to take the leg over to. Come back to center. 3 more. So we can really relax in this position. And the reason I'm resting the foot on the knee is just to help you keep your pelvic tilt. Explore where you can get to. Both shoulders stay on the floor. Try and move under control. Brace the core.
That's hard on your waist.
But the waist is quite fresh and not worked that yet, so breathe out lower. I'm fine on this side, it's the other side that I will be joining you with the most. All the time, Pilates, so we're keeping the ribs pressed down. I'm trying to keep my shoulder blades together. So 4, always move slowly under control so you don't hurt any muscles in your back or anywhere else. Lower down and change sides. So rest the heel on the knee, tilt the pelvis. Really feel as if you've got a very small tailbone lift as well. Breathe out. So keep going. I'm going to pause. Once you're in this position, you need to tilt the pelvis, tailbone scoots towards the knee, shoulders need to stay on the floor, and the rib cage needs to firmly push down into the tummy. So we're going for roughly 4. What number are you guys up to? Just about there. So do you feel, if you pause in, do you feel how hard it is to push the ribs down into the tummy? Really important way to keep the Pilates feel tight. And out of it. So I'm going to take a gentle stretch here. Once you've done your 4 anyway. So the most important bit is This arch of the back needs to stay flat. Hopefully you've been brainwashed to getting that into place completely anyway, so breathe in, breathe out, take a few breaths, and each out breath is through your mouth. It's going to get the back of the ribs even firmer and firmer to the floor. Breathe in, breathe out. So it should feel like the whole of the back's pretty firm to the floor. Now to get the tension out the shoulders, you need to walk the shoulder blades together. Slide the shoulder blades down the back. And then if you're like me, your back will have lifted and you'll need to breathe out, push the ribs back down again. So non-negotiable, firmly press the back of the ribs to floor whilst performing the exercise. Breathe in to prepare, breathe out, stretch left arm, left leg. Take a couple of breaths here before we speed up. If there's a lot of pressure in the shoulder, wriggle your shoulder blade down your back a little bit more. Breathe out, push the ribs down and take a stretch. Breathe in, reset. Breathe out, pause. You don't have to pause your breathing, just pause the move. If there's a lot of pressure in the shoulder, wriggle your shoulder blade down your back. Reset the back of the ribs down to the floor. Doesn't matter if you can't get the arm all the way to floor or not, just enjoy the stretch. Slide back in. So once you've got the shoulders in position, keep the ribs down and start to alternate. Breathe out, stretch. Breathe in, release. So I've just adjusted. I've just checked that the chin is gently drawing in. Back of the neck feels long. I'm trying to keep the ribs down. So just imagine you've got your last 2 or 3 sheets of toilet paper underneath your rib cage and don't let anyone get it. Breathe out, stretch. Breathe in, reset. It is, exactly. And that's where the stretch comes. So the reason we do this, although it doesn't feel really strong, and this is great for particularly men, also people with tight hamstrings, but probably I'd say about 90% of the population, we tend to actually, if you're finding it hard to keep your ribs down, it means that the muscles in the back are wanting to fire up and they're often very tight. So we learn to stretch them out, and it doesn't even feel like, I don't know about you, it doesn't even feel like you're stretching the muscles in the back, but they're actually getting a bit of a stretch. You'll be stretching elsewhere as well. So let's just do a couple more. It's a very relaxed exercise, doesn't particularly feel taxing, but really effective for realigning the body. So our last bit of work is for posture and deep core muscles. So come and take a seat. You can actually do this sitting on a hard kitchen stool as well, or sit on your books. You need to feel as if you're really comfortable in the lower back. So I'm just trying to adjust and lean forward, getting right on top and the front of the sit bones. And it's just so that when you sit bolt upright, your back's okay. You can, if you're comfortable with 2 straight legs, you can do it with straight legs as well. It takes the pressure out of the hip. Or if you're built in for punishment, you can keep the knees bent and strengthen the hips. We did this yesterday, so you might still be aching.
No.
Oh, cramp, yes. Whatever the reason is, fine. Okay, fingertips come to the breastbone. If you cross too far, your shoulders will pull forward, so you need to have room to gently squeeze the shoulder blades together, and then rib cage, because it's Pilates, pushes down. Stay like this if you want, or you can bring your fingertips to the side of the head, squeeze the shoulder blades together. Main purpose is to get the back strengthened and the core muscles strengthened. So ribs down, breathe in, and as you breathe out, turn your shoulders and ribs as far one way as you can. Breathe in, come center, change sides. Breathe out, turn. So I'm trying to keep my shoulder blades gently drawing towards each other, and I'm trying to push my ribs down. So if you keep going, shoulders are back and down, ribs are down. So in this move, I feel a band of work around where the bra strap is, or if you're wearing a heart rate monitor, around here. Breathe out, explore where you can turn to. Breathe in, come center. So these are working tummy muscles, deep core muscles that you don't normally feel working. You know they've stopped working because this starts to go into back. So really engage pelvic floor, but also these low down tummy muscles pulling away from the hip crease, and a gentle bracing sensation in the abs. Let's go for 4 more, unless it's going into back. Breathe out, rotate. Breathe in, come center. Breathe out, rotate. Breathe in, come center. Two more. So I'm trying to, just as you get tired, we start to slouch a bit. Pull as upright as you can. And it almost feels like you're pushing the floor away with your bottom. I've got 1 more to go, but I do breathe quite slowly. It's great to learn to slow your breathing down to use the whole part of the lungs. So we're just going to finish with a bit of Pilates breathing. So just 2 minutes practice of this. Come take a lie down on your back. If you do need to stretch out your back or your hips, whatever feels natural, my suggested move once again is a knee hug will stretch out your back and a single leg stretch will stretch out your hip. Now I'm going to stay still with this one and take about a good 6 breaths and then concentrate my Pilates breathing. So you're going to breathe in through the nose and breathe out through the mouth. Breathe out and empty your lungs completely. You're going to explore breathing right down, a lot of exploring today. Breathe right down to the bottom of your rib cage. And then keep breathing in, try and fill up the side of your ribs, and then the back of the ribs. You'll feel them maybe press against the floor, and then exhale completely. This is a great way to keep your lungs clear, especially if you can do it outside or next to a window. You don't have to do it in this position, you can stand next to a window. So let's change sides with the legs. Stretch the other leg out, squeeze the bottom, and let's take 6 slow breaths. Breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. So can you slow your breath down? Breathe into the base of the ribs near the hips. Keep breathing in, feel the side of the ribs. Keep breathing in, feel the back of the ribs filling up. And then exhale, completely empty the lungs. Feel your body relaxing as you breathe out. So if you get on with this breathing, you might carry on with this breath and perhaps go into a more comfortable position and wrap up in some warm clothes. It's a great way to de-stress. For now, what time is it? 6 o'clock. It's a really lovely feeling. If we stay long enough, we will chill. It gets cold after a bit. Feeling okay? Yes. To being a Dallas assistant. So hopefully it's worked. Glutes, hamstrings, quads, and abs will be all that.
Oh, they know my faster.
She knows.
My brother and his girlfriend had to listen to me creaking up the stairs come Friday night.